Hi, my name is Shane Donoghue from Chiron Healing Centre, and today we're going to talk about the SU scale and how it relates to energy healing modalities such as EMO and EFT, the tapping technique you may be familiar with. So, to begin with the SU scale, I'm just going to show you this image first so you can see it. The SU scale stands for Subjective Units of Experience, which is an adaptation of the SUD scale, Subjective Units of Distress, which is used in classical EFT, developed by Gary Craig, maybe around 20 years ago I think now. But Sylvia Hartman's version is called the SU scale. And those of you familiar with tapping or EFT will be familiar with the idea that when you're working with a client, you would ask them to tune in on something that is stressful or upsetting and where they feel they are on the scale between 0 and 10. 10 being the most stressful they could feel about it, and 0 being no stress at all. And fantastic technique, I've used it myself many times over the years, and you're gradually moving from the state of being stressed down to a state of not being stressed, down at the 0. So you're employing the techniques like tapping on the various energy points, and all of a sudden the stress starts to leave your body, and you feel great, you feel light, you feel free, and all fantastic. The big difference with the SU scale, and I was going to show you again, is not only does it go from the 0 to 10, the minus 10 in this sense, as you can imagine, that's where the most stressful you would feel would be down here, very stressed here, and then no stress in around here. The difference in the SU scale is that we're not only moving to a 0 where we feel nothing and no longer feel the stress, but we're actually moving into a more positive energy flow where whatever the issue is completely reversed. We're feeling much more positive about it rather than feeling sort of neither here nor there. And that's what where the 0 is on the scale. And it's the part that maybe I wouldn't say I don't like about the classical EFT, but it leaves you in a state of a void. It leaves you kind of feeling, not happy about the situation, not sad about it either. And of course that's going to be a lot better than feeling completely distressed. But to me it's only halfway. So as we move into the pluses, you start to feel more positive. You start to feel the energy flowing through your body. And when you move up to the high pluses here in the scale, particularly up at the plus 10 here, that's where you have, as Sylvia Hartman calls it, a healing moment, where whatever block you were working on has been resolved and you're in full energy flow. You have completely different perception of it. And that's the key, because when you're in the high minuses, or in the minuses at all, it's very difficult to focus in. You're very much in the state of victimhood. You're almost in the middle of the vortex, just feeling sucked in, impossible to see any way out of the situation, and you'll come up with global statements like everybody hates me, the whole world's against me, I'll never get over this tragedy, there's no hope for me, I'm completely lost. And we've all been there, at various stages where we feel a little bit hopeless. We feel very much like a victim. So by employing the techniques I'll show you in later videos, we can move out of that state of victimhood, we can move out of that state of helplessness and hopelessness, and gradually chipping away in it, releasing the blocked energy, feeling much lighter, feeling much brighter, feeling more positive, and move ourselves into the positive end of the scale, further and further away from the trauma. So essentially what it is doing, it's neutralizing the charge from the event or the trauma. So if, for example, it was a abuse, for example, that the person suffered, maybe in their memory they can't even go back into it because it's too upsetting, it's too traumatic, and they buried it deep within the psyche. So they'll tune into it as best they can, and by releasing it and bringing it to the surface and allowing it to come out, they're moving into a state of empowerment where they no longer see it as something that was that placed them in a state of victimhood and possibly the worst thing that ever happened to them. They start to gather insights from the event where they realize that, actually, do you know what, I can take certain strengths from this, I can take certain lessons from this. No matter how horrific the event was, there are always some sort of insights and lessons to be learned. But we cannot see those insights and lessons when we're in the minus, we're in that blocked energy flow. It's almost impossible to get those insights because, like I say, we're right in the middle of the vortex, and we have blinkered vision. We don't see anything but right down the middle. It's black and white. No, I'm a mess. I just can't get out of this. I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to listen to anything. So let me explain it this way in terms of the scale and how we measure it. So obviously, you know, if something traumatic happens to you, you know you're stressed. I mean, you know you're feeling really, really stressed. You're feeling really, really emotional. You're feeling overwhelmed. I mean, these are sort of natural things, especially when they happen at, you know, quite recently. If we're looking at something that's maybe a little bit further back, you could go about your day and not think about it, maybe not even think about it for weeks. But when you tune into it, all of a sudden, you go from being happy about your day to wham, way down here on the scale. Yes, when I tune in on that particular incident where I got bullied by a work colleague, or when my mother died, or whatever the case may be, you think you're over it, and then all of a sudden it just sucks you right back into it as if it was right at the moment in time that it happened. So it's in those cases that we will tune into the event. We'll find out where we are in the scale about it, just as a base point, so we know where we're going from. Because really all this is I suppose, a dog and pony show for the mind, so you can reflect back what's going on internally when the energy is shifting, when the blocks are moving. You know, you can physically feel it happen, emotionally feel different about it, but actually seeing it in black and white on the scale is almost a validation of your feelings. So it's just that's one of the main reasons why we use this, and to measure progress. You know, that we can see that something is happening, we're getting more encouraged by it, we go, okay, well look, I'll keep running with this, particularly if you have doubts about stuff like this, and maybe if you've never worked with any sort of energy healing modalities before. It's a good, simple introduction to energy healing. And like I said, tuning in on something like this just helps, particularly the left-brained office out there. Nice to tune in on something like this, just to, as I said, validate how we're feeling. Okay. So if, for example, I'm just going to explain the different parts of the scale. I mean, I said very briefly that obviously here you're very stressed, here, extremely stressed. So, I mean, completely overwhelmed. As you work on the trauma and start releasing the blocked energy, the emotion will come up with it, because when we have this trauma, it causes a block in the energy system, almost like it's been zapped, and there's like a big buildup of density or energy in the body, which is restricting the flow of energy. Our emotions will alert us to the fact that exactly where the block is, because we feel it physically. For example, if it's bereavement or grief, you'll probably feel it in the lung area, in the chest area, almost like someone is actually sitting on your chest, or you have a heavy weight on your chest, and maybe finding it difficult to breathe, taking very short breaths, a sign that you're very, very stressed, and there's a lot of blocked energy there. So by employing some of the techniques to release that blocked energy, you start to feel a little bit looser, you start to feel calmer, you start to feel more focused, you start to release that blocked energy, and the heaviness starts to disappear. You can take a deeper breath, and as we move down the scale, we go from something completely overwhelming to, after releasing a bit, we might move down a couple of points on the scale. Now everybody is different. We may move, some people could move down 5 or 6 or even 10 points within 10 or 15 minutes. Other people, it might be a little bit slower. So there's no set rule for every person. Everyone is different. Everyone is going to take this at their own pace. So if you're up here, like I say, that's where you're going to be very stressed. You chip away in it, you start, like I say, you're feeling a wee bit easier, you're starting to move down the scale. So maybe from being overwhelmed, you're going to just feeling very stressed, and then you move it down here to maybe -3, where you're just feeling stressed but not overwhelmed in any shape or form. And when we move down to the 0, like I was saying earlier, it's where we have this void of, you know, no feeling, a 0 point of nothing. You're just like, whatever, don't care. It's just, you know, it happened, the person died, it happened, look, I was, for example, if a person was abused, well look, it happened, I was just abused, and that's just the way it is, there's nothing I can do about it now. And you just have that feeling of indifference. Okay, so better than here, you know, obviously, if you're feeling indifferent to something, than feeling completely overwhelmed, so overwhelmed in fact that you can't even go back into the memory. So what do we do from here? We're going to try and energize ourselves to get the energy flowing even better again. So as we continue to employ the techniques, we start to get a flow of energy. Where the energy was blocked, the energy is now starting to flow through. You're starting to feel lighter and brighter. and all the heaviness is really shifting now. All the fog that was surrounding you, the brain fog, where you can't see the wood from the trees, can't focus, very shut down awareness, maybe not wanting to leave your room or speak to anyone, cross the street rather than talk to anyone. All those feelings have lifted. And up at say a +4 or 5, you'll find that that's where the fog is completely gone. You're feeling much clearer, you're feeling much more positive, you're seeing a major light at the end of the tunnel, that yes, you know what, I think I can actually really get through this. I think I can actually do this. You'll start to feel the energy flowing through your body, maybe in a place where you haven't felt it flowing for quite some time. You might feel tingling sensations in your fingers, in your legs, etc. And as you move up to a 7 and an 8, again feeling much more energized, feeling that seeing solutions to the issue, feeling much more in the flow of life, having a major perception shift from where you were at say the -8, -9, where you felt completely enslaved by this traumatic event, to moving up to that +8 and 9, where you feel, do you know what, I think I know what was going on there, I think I can see the bigger picture. And that's what the perception does. It lifts you out from the vortex so you can have that eagle vision, so you can see what's going on from a higher perspective, see the bigger playing field, and realize, okay, now I can see why that happened to me, it got me onto this path, and actually, do you know what, I've learned this and this, and I can take out so many positives from something that was pretty traumatic to go through in the first place, which you never think you could possibly do because you're in the middle of it. You're still in that victim mode. So you're moving into a state of empowerment, and that's what these techniques are. They empower people to actually go out and do this stuff for themselves. Not reliant on anyone else. Go out and do this for yourself. That's what I teach my clients here in the Healing Centre. I teach them the techniques. I say it's up to you. I'll work with you as long as we need to help shift some of the bigger stuff. But going forward, proactively, this is something that you can do. Even reactively, I mean, there's going to be the inevitable highs and lows of life. I guess the issue we have in all the world, and some places more than others, is that the baseline of stress that we've become accustomed to is so high that we've just gotten accepted it as the norm. And it's only when we de-stress we realize how stressed we actually are. When the inevitable highs and lows of life occur, with the base level being so high, it doesn't take a lot for it to spill over, where we overreact to things. We end up shouting at our children and we feel remorseful after it. We end up doing things and acting out that is just not who we are. So this is a wonderful technique of bringing, particularly if you're doing these techniques on a daily basis, even only 5 or 10 minutes a day, it'll bring that baseline of stress right down, so that when the inevitable highs and lows happen, you're going to be able, it's contained, you're going to be able to handle it. I'm not saying you'll never overreact, but you'll be in a much better position for being able to handle stress. So when these stressful situations arrive, stuff that used to bother you, stuff that you used to overreact to, you find yourself not doing that anymore. You feel more in control, you feel more relaxed, you feel more in tune with things, you feel more in flow with the one life, and that you're not out there on your own, and you feel that you're constantly swimming upstream and everything coming against you. When we get to the +10, I mentioned earlier that Sylvia Hartman calls it the healing moment, and whatever the issue we were working on that started out at -10, that's it, it's gone. That large layer, if you like, or that large piece is completely gone, and it allows you then, generally these things will surface naturally, like a layer of an onion presenting itself, where there may be some subplots going on that are tied into other aspects of your life, and they will surface, and then we just follow the same protocols again to help release the next level of trauma. And you keep going and you keep going until, maybe it's never done, I don't know, but certainly the big stuff. You'll find that once you've cleared some of that big stuff, life becomes much, much easier. It's less of a challenge than where it was before. So that is the SU scale. Again, credit to Sylvia Hartman for developing this scale, adapting it from the original SUD scale. Sylvia also has developed EMO, which is energy in motion, also called emotrance, energy transformation. We'll also be looking at positive EFT, which I mentioned before. Again, this is another adaptation by Sylvia from Gary Craig's work, which is the classical EFT. Positive EFT is probably more energy based rather than psychology based, because we're not chasing after what the trauma is, we're actually getting the energy flow. So generally what I do here in the healing center is I employ the emo trance to locate where the blockages are in the body, going from -10 until we get to around a 0 or +1 or 2, and then we employ positive EFT to help move ourselves up to scale, up to the +10, where we feel energized, we feel in great form, we feel we can take on the world. And the reason I made this video, I guess, is that people can practice this at home. The techniques will be following in the further parts 2 and 3. But this video is really just to give you a bit of background, first of all, on energy work, how the traumas occur in the body. I generally describe it as almost like it's an imprint on your spirit that just keeps attracting the same type of events, the same type of people into your life until you release the blockage. And when you release the blockage, you get the insight. When you get the insight, then you can let it go, because the past really is just a dream. It's not real anymore. We just spend too much of our time there and not in the present, or worried about the future. Both cases are down to feeling stressful. So by bringing ourselves out of that stressful state into a positive energy flow, we're more in the present, we're more engaged with life, and we're not living in the past. So when I say it's a dream, I mean we can let that dream go. Just like a summer breeze, let it float away, let it blow away, but take the good stuff out of it. Take those nuggets of gold out of your experiences, because the reason you had them in the first place was to garner those lessons and those gifts that we can get from these sometimes horrendous situations that appear on the surface. So letting go of the shadow or the dark bits or the trauma will allow you to see the gold, allow you to take that into your life, and allow you to use that to energize yourself, to grow physically, mentally, spiritually, and take it on with your life and use it to gain more insights and lessons from other life experiences. So that's about all I have for today on the Sue scale, on a bit of background on energy healing in terms of EFT and emo trance. I will be, like I say, in the next 2 videos. The second video I'll be explaining emo and how we can find out the location of the energy blockages in the body and let them go. And then the third video then I'll be doing some demonstrations on positive EFT. So use them at home, guys. Looking forward to hearing your feedback. You can reach me at chironhealingcenter.com, CHIRON healingcenter.com, all in one word. Shane at chironhealingcenter.com is my email. And you can subscribe to the videos on this page. I'll hopefully upload some more with some maybe shamanic videos and some more energy work and spiritual work as well. Take care, everyone.